Torch Bridge, 1 year, 1 week, 1 day, and a few hours after Pulse. Carl pushed himself out of the airlock and floated towards the elevator bypass duct. Pushing off, he floated all the way to the bridge and strapped himself to his seat. Captain, the missile is set to detonate at well beyond its minimum safe distance. I'm ready to pull the trigger when you are. Captain Monger looked up from his display and thumbed the trigger. Firing. The missile ignited. The extra weight from the metal reflector made it appear comically slow as it began pushing itself away from the ship. Hive drone control room. Abraham drank deeply from his pot of coffee as his drones finished docking. All collectors but 2 destroyed ones are in the ship. Joe, you good? Joe nodded. Sensor net is deployed and ready to track debris. Okay then. I'll send the green light to flash the area. Flashing now. Joe's face illuminated green from the computer blasting him in the face. And wow, that's a lot of shit. Got over 10 million particles over a 1/4 millimeter long and counting. Debris categorization in progress. Anything on a suborbital or escape trajectory is getting ignored. Okay, you should be good to launch drones again. I've marked a few pieces of high-priority debris which are actively on a collision course with various stations to collect first. Abraham drained his pod and looked longingly at the empty husk, then started on his backup. All right, lock the largest chunks of debris and start painting them with our lasers. Continuous mode only, I don't want that shit off-gassing on us. I've got to send 1 drone straight back to HQ with some of that material for deep analysis. Might give us something to work with. Within 30 minutes, the drones were refueled and back in space. Zlezero, SMES room. The rest of the squad saw a bright flash through their infrared cameras, and alien-sounding alarms began resounding throughout the ship. Vincent winced and ran back into the control room. Warren! Olsen sighed. Fuck, man. Guys, we need to get these aliens to the infirmary. There's no signal from his suit or anything. I don't think he survived that. Walking out into the hallway, he scooped up 3 aliens and threw them over his shoulders. Come on! Each of them grabbed aliens until they were all loaded up, then made their way back up the ladder. Warren's suit locked up just before he was slammed face first against the wall with bone-cracking force, absorbing the entire impact and cradling the pressure bag with the unconscious alien in it. A gritty, robotic voice began reading out messages as his consciousness faded away. Danger, severe head and neck trauma, massive internal bleeding, stabilizing, no breathing or heartbeat detected, machine oxygenation starting, warning, left arm servo motor damaged, right arm, left leg, and right leg servo motors heavily damaged, power generation partially disabled, attempting repair, warning, external atmospheric pressure at 0 kPa, extreme electrostatic discharge conditions, communications blackout. Warren was forced into a chemical-induced wakefulness as the suit injected various cocktails of drugs into his body. Trying to move, he was still paralyzed and unable to feel anything. Systems partially restored. Warning, neural interface disabled. Control scheme set to blank interface. Legs are still disabled. Would you like mobility assistance? Warren blinked yes. A generic, artificial female voice activated. Hello, I am Mobility Assistance AI. I can navigate... Warren blinked skip. It seems the suit is damaged. I will make alterations to the pathfinding algorithm. Skip. I am having trouble reading the data provided by the sensor suite. Please give me a moment to analyze. Warren hurriedly blinked through the menus and turned off sensors except the floodlights and cameras. 1 moment, please. Camera feed works. 3D room model via camera feed may be delayed due to lack... Skip. Input positional data now. Warren really tried to talk, to twitch his fingers, to do anything. He couldn't even breathe without assistance. The sharp pains of the suit's artificial respirator and blood-pumping system were constantly cutting through his heavy painkillers. Blinking through the suit's menus, he first selected the manual override to lock his right arm in order to keep cradling the alien in the bag. He then opened the map and found the inertial guidance path they took to get here from the infirmary. He selected it and clicked backtrack. 1 moment, please. Calculating. The suit grabbed a handhold and panned the cameras around. Suddenly, It flung him across the room, re-breaking his arm in the process, and grabbed various handholds in a tumbling path. With robotic precision, the left arm caught another protruding piece of metal and brought them to a stop. Repositioning the whole suit, the left arm flipped them down and pushed off the wall, sliding them towards the entrance. They came to a sudden stop at the closed door to the control room. The suit pulled them up and looked at the door. Analyzing recorded footage, it appears the alien accessed these doors via 5-digit code. Attempting. Done. The door unlocked, but didn't open. One moment. Door must be pushed to open. Pressure differential causing door to be forced against frame. Analyzing problem. Solution. Create a small hole in door to equalize pressure, then open door, seal hole, equalize pressure with adjacent room, and repeat the process. Current equipment capable of generating holes. Angle grinder, disabled. Destroyed. Plasma torch, disabled. Cutting gas tank at 0 kPa. Breaching drill ineffective against bulkhead material. Knife, unknown effectiveness. Rifle, unknown effectiveness. Sidearm, unknown effectiveness. Breaching shaped charges. High risk of explosive depressurization. Radiators damaged. Heat sinks at 20% capacity. Placing operator in hibernation to lower heat buildup. Warren slipped into a low-energy chemical haze, and the suit got to work. Releasing the alien and leaving it by the entrance, the suit used both arms to climb around the control room's windows. Vice-gripping a handrail, it locked its legs against the floor rail to provide some stability. It then deployed a small drill and attempted to push it against the windows. Despite the machine precision, it was unable to gain purchase. It switched the twist bit out with an abrasively shaped polycrystalline diamond. Slowly pushing with more and more force, the diamond shattered without leaving a scratch on the window. Recording the data, the suit went back to its other options. It moved back to the door and grabbed the handle before starting to drill it with the regular bit. It made a tiny amount of progress before quickly wearing itself down to a stub. Exhausting all of the other spare bits, it was left with a 3mm deep hole. It repositioned the alien to be behind itself before pulling out the rifle and loading a magazine of flechettes designed to penetrate light armor. Firing one into the door, it observed the damage. The flechette had disintegrated, leaving a small gouge in the door's material. Steadying itself, it then fired the entire magazine into the same exact spot that the first one had entered. A hole approximately a centimeter deep had been bored out by the time it ran out. Repeating the test with other ammunition types in the sidearm, the AI decided to stop attempting to use firearms due to the lack of effect. Grabbing a utility knife, it slammed the poor thing at the hole where it proceeded to crumple like a sheet of aluminum foil. Deciding to use a hull-breaching charge, it began simulating all possible movements it could make within the current constraints. 15 seconds later, it applied one of Warren's remaining shaped charges to the door, grabbed the bag alien, pushed against the wall to slide across the room, detonated the charge, then slid back to the door, which now had a jagged hole with gas whistling out of it. Moving like a tool-assisted speedrun, it pushed the alien back down, forced the door open, pushed the alien in, moved itself into the room, typed in the keypad for the next door, violently pushed against the increasing pressure difference, and scraped through the door before it slammed shut. It cycled the air in the alien's bag, then attempted to dump the heat sinks to little effect. Rushing up the ladder, it made its way back to the infirmary. When it got through the door, it woke Warren. "You have arrived at your destination. Radiators damaged. Heat sinks at 80% capacity. Recommend immediate extraction." Warren looked around, hoping to find his squad and ending up disappointed. He dropped a communications relay and blinked out a slow text message, which would hopefully reach someone if they got close enough. Warren, paralyzed. IRTB. He then took a minute to blink out more detailed instructions for the assistant's AI. Approach, medic. Unzip bag and hand over. RTB and make comm chain. Parsing. One moment, please. Zlezero Infirmary, shortly before the coil explodes. The door to the infirmary opened, and 12 Ianians floated in, each carrying an injured.
"Medic, they seem to have severe radiation burns."
Medic Orion pushed himself over to them.
Strap them down to those mats. They look bad."
They did as they were told. Orion had just connected them to the machines when the room moved, and all unsecured floating objects, including himself and a few other non-patients, flew into the hard walls before falling to the floor.
"Ow, what now?"
Ornan grit his teeth and stood up first. Getting back to the triage ahead of him, he grimaced at the display and unhooked 5 of the new patients.
And take them out of here. But they're still breathing.
Ornan sighed.
Those ones have received an unbelievable amount of radiation. Their blood is poison now. I have half a mind to order security to shoot them to get it over with. But right now, just inject them with strong painkillers and let them die. We need the beds for those who are not already the breathing dead. So move! Yes, sir.
It took most of the room a minute to adjust to suddenly having artificial gravity to walk in. A bit later, the group of robots walked into the room, each carrying a few injured. Ornan walked towards them.
We're running out of beds. Put them on the ground in the triage section and I'll get people on them shortly.
When they just stood there, he sighed exasperatedly. Grabbing one of them by a protrusion in the front chest area, he pulled it towards the area in question and pointed at the floor.
Put them down.
After a few seconds, it and the other robots moved forwards and put the injured down in neat rows. A few medics immediately walked over to start triage.
Thank you. Was it that hard?
Walking over to the now unconscious Captain Tothquap, he checked his vitals. Low, but stable.
Who's the highest-ranking conscious officer here?
After a moment, someone responded.
I think that would be you, sir. Fine, that's great. Lovely. If someone needs a command decision, Let Ern is in command. I'll be dealing with the injured.
Let Ern was propped up on his bed and hooked up to some more machines. He motioned for his group to come close. In a croaking voice, he began.
We have a few major problems which need to be addressed. I'll need you to form into 3 groups. Group 1, we've picked up a significant spin, as you can tell by the presence of gravity. As you go down the decks of the ship, the gravity will get stronger and stronger as you move farther from the ship's center of mass. See if we have any RCS pods or reaction wheels still functional, and slow the spin down. We can't afford to suffer another structural failure. Group 2, go across the ship, find air canisters and bring them back. Actually, try to bring the robots and get them to carry stuff for you. I don't think they understand us, so you'll just have to drag them along. Group 3, go back to the galley and gather some emergency rations together. It's been a while since anyone's eaten, and I have no idea how long it'll be safe to keep venturing out.
Groups 1 and 3 both stumbled out. It took a bit, but the unofficial leader of Group 2 convinced the robots to follow along. Let Ern laid back down, and Ornan gave him a quick checkup.
You should keep the talking down if possible. You're still suffering from oxygen toxicity.
Yeah, well, what else am I supposed to do?
Nothing. Your lungs are fucked and it'll take a few days of treatment to get you off these machines. Sit, breathe as lightly as you can, and stay quiet.
Ornan handed him a paper and a grease marker.
Write your commands down when you need to. The captain should be awake in a few hours, and I'm going to have to give him the same lecture since he is even worse.
A screeching, grating noise alerted him to another robot approaching the room with a large fluorescent-looking bag. It was heavily damaged, with sections of armor plate torn off exposing what looked like bare wiring in some places. It just stood there for a minute before grabbing some handrails and dragging itself over to him. It then unzipped the bag and held it out to him.
What is this?
Walking over, he looked into the bag and saw a very battered-looking crew member.
Shit.
He grabbed the bag. He gently laid it on the ground and cut it down the middle to access the crew member inside. The moment he did that, the robot left the room and scraped away.